Well, moving away from the Sefton to other things. I mean, you haven't been here, which is time-wise was not probably the best for you anyway, because you've been in China. You're back. I haven't heard much about it yet, but you have given some press release on it. We're promised some pictures, so by the time this interview is put together, we should be floating some pictures over this of you meeting some dignitaries, and it's all been a great success, you're going to tell me.
It's promising. The reality is that I've got a question down next week, so there'll be more publicity. We've got a feedback session with the private sector on Friday afternoon to discuss how they felt it went. From a political point of view, it was rewarding. It was quite surprising how welcoming we were made by the governments and the business people that we met. But we've been now concentrating the last 18 months trying to get the messaging right in China. What do they want that we can offer better than anybody else? So we've now whittled it down. We have got an agreement with their banking regulators that we can talk to banks, which we are doing, because we want one or more banks from China opening on the Isle of Man.
Because there hasn't been any new banks here for a long time, have there? I mean,
no, and it's something where we know that the Chinese are going global. We know that they are looking to invest into exports into the UK and Europe. We are in a better position than any of the competitive offshores because we've got our location close to UK and Europe, but we're in the VAT agreement, which is differentiating us from the Channel Islands. We've got the same time zone, we've got the same English law. So all of those benefits, what we need to do is raise the awareness. And through our contacts that we've established over the last 18 months, particularly using Michael Charlton from London, who is well vested in contacts in China, we are seeing people at the highest level in government and business. And indeed, we've now got another 4 delegations of people coming over the next 2 or 3 months from China to the Isle of Man to look at opening businesses.
Well, I know you saw my Richard Murphy interview. And
I did.
He was basically saying, the Isle of Man is now, well, and not just the Isle of Man, these offshores are trawling these new places to try and put some dodgy deals together.
But it's neither dodgy deals nor is it trawling new places. From the Isle of Man, our diversity is already well established. We're finding that our competitors in the Channel Islands are imitating and copying some of those areas of diversification.
Well, they've gone to Abu Dhabi and places. That's where they've put the most of their...
But again, we've been out to Dubai, and again, I'll be answering questions on this next week. And progress is made, and you talk about domestically how much communications we make. We had 270 press issues in the China area. I did television commentary. Those are where we're raising the awareness about what the Isle of Man is, where it is, and what we're offering. Did journalist interviews numerous times to get the message out into the right papers. So it's not just trying to be waving a flag on one newspaper. This is trying to get into all the financial papers and into the high values and into the business communities. All of that's going on. It's not just me. I'm hoping the Chief Minister will go out next year. We had the Ambassador for China. He came over here. That wasn't accidental that he came over just before we travelled. So we were able to latch into that. He's talking to us about tourism, the opportunity for China, people who are coming to London. Let's see if we can get them to the Isle of Man.
Because they're always now one of the biggest areas of the world who are being tourists, aren't they now? China?
They are, and it is difficult if you haven't travelled to Shanghai or Beijing or Guangzhou like we did. If you have not lived in those areas to see what the climate is like and the air quality is like, when they come to the Isle of Man and see the golf courses and the beauty and the history, they are blown away. So we know that from the visits we've already had, and many Chinese people have come over to talk business with us. What we're now looking at doing is saying if we can latch into a market that is going to bring tourists from the China to London to the Isle of Man, so we're talking with Chinese tourist companies to do just that.
Back to the business side, though, just explain why would a Chinese company need to base themselves in the Isle of Man? Let's say a bank, for instance. I mean, is that still a tax advantage for them? And is that allowed under the new world order?
Yeah, I mean, inevitably taxation is an issue, but the Chinese are extremely commercial. The Chinese are already opening companies, but they're opening them in the BVI and Cayman Islands. Not for any good reason, but just because that's the way historically they've done it. What we're trying to say is we can do everything as well and better than the BVI and Cayman and give you added opportunities into the UK and Europe. Most of the Chinese people we're talking to, we know have aspirations to develop and export into those markets. So we're not going to companies that are not interested. We've identified those that may have an expansion market into Europe, and we then tell them what we can offer. It's then up to them, come over to the Isle of Man, see if we are good enough, and we should be good enough to win that business.
And do we have an exchange of information with China yet, or will that happen as well?
if you consider that most of the time in these cities, you could see buildings that would house most of our small towns. One building, and there's hundreds of them. The scale of this is unimaginable for us to consider that we can operate at a scale that they deal with. So we can offer a very small part of their solution to their problems. We've identified those. Doesn't mean the business will come here, but we have to build up a long-term commitment and relationship, and this is part of that process.
I'm putting you on the spot slightly. When do you see a bank opening?
There are decisions which will be made during this year.